Hello, today we're going to be painting Ian. As you can see, I'm starting off with a fairly tight drawing, um, showing basically all the characteristics of his face, the nose, the eyes. Um, I don't want to leave anything to chance, especially with portraiture. You want to be exact as much as you can. So it's important to have a good drawing underneath if you want to have a tight, realistic rendering. Although this the technique is going to be a little bit more on the um, kind of painterly side. All right, as you can see now, my flesh tone, for those who are interested, is basically very simple. It's yellow ochre, cadmium red, and just to cool things down, I usually use a little, in this case, I'm using uh, ultramarine blue. The hair is a combination of uh, burnt sienna and yellow ochre. As you can see in the beard, there's a little blue. That blue is there because he's in a car, so there's light coming in from the other window, um, to what would be his left side. And now I'm just kind of massing in. I want to try to get that dark in as dark as I can. I know I'm going to go over that again with another wash. I really want that face to pop out. I want to have that feeling of warm light on his face, and that's pretty much it. So the blue there that I'm using is ultramarine blue, but the background is ultramarine blue and a little bit of burnt umber. Now you can see I'm starting to go to those areas like his cheek, his lips, trying to get a little bit of that red in there. He's the light source obviously is frontal, slightly to the side. I mean, um, the picture right side of his nose there is a shadow, but that shadow is it's a plane, basically it's a plane shadow. So you'll see that that's going to start getting a little darker as we go. You can see when I dried the portrait, everything kind of lightened up a bit. So this is a process, and you have to be relatively patient with it. Um, what you can do is keep your washes on the more transparent side. Um, if you feel a little bolder and you want to get like more gradation and stuff, you can go a little, deeper with the colors in the beginning. Um, but this is my process, and I'm just going to build up on this portrait. I'm trying to get it mass in some of the eyes too, just to get, I think he has blue-green eyes, so I'm trying to get that color. And since the lighting is what it is, it's a direct light, so the light really in the eyes, the light in the eyes will be pretty flat because there's not really much modeling. It's a straight-on light. He's basically looking into the sunset, what looks like sunset to me. Um, yeah, so there's more color around his cheek. Again, the colors I use, basically it's derivative of the Zorn palette, with the exception of I don't use black. I'll use blue instead, blue and burnt umber, ultramarine blue that is. And so that's really my neutralizing color. So it's cadmium red, yellow ochre, ultramarine blue, burnt umber. If I have to get reds darker in the face, I'll use a combination of alizarin crimson and burnt umber, almost like a 50-50 wash together. That kind of, it represents red in its darkest value. All right, so there's more color. I'm massing in some of the darks now, trying to get a little bolder. I want to really start feeling the light on his face, so I got to take the plunge and start going darker. However, I still want to keep that blue light there. I think that's important in this portrait. we're seeing that little bit of light come through. Um, so his hair, the facial hair, uh, yellow ochre, a little burnt sienna. To neutralize it, I think I'm dropping in a little bit of the burnt umber. I'm sorry, not burnt. Well, to get it darker, I'm using burnt umber. To get it cooler, I'm using ultramarine blue. So you can see that starting to happen there. Now his hair is pretty wild. Um, it's you want to try to get the big shadows. That's what I'm trying to do here. Trying to get the shadows to all relate if I can. The shadow on his neck, which would be the sternomastoid there, and I want to get that feeling of brownness. There we go. So that's dry, and here we go into the the lips, getting a little more color. And again, keeping things a little loose. This is you want to try to have a portrait that's you know not so perfect. We want it a little more painterly, so that's why I'm letting the brush strokes just sit there and dry, because I do want to see them. Now, if I wanted to do a portrait of him a little bit more formal, then my washes would be very deliberate. There'd be many of them because I'd work from obviously light to dark, and that would take a longer process. Either way, it works. It depends on your personality. Um, so I'm getting a little more accents around the eyes. Again, that's probably that color I just mentioned, the alizarin crimson and burnt umber, just to get some of the accent marks in and around the eyes. So you can still see there's a lot of big broad color in here. But that's good because you can keep going back. That's the beauty of transparent watercolor, is that you can just keep building up the form. You can get as realistic as you want to. I've seen some really beautiful portraits, very photographic, um, and some very rough, loose ones too. So, it all depends on your personality, your style, um, what you really like in art and what you want to try to, strive for. Um, I find that sometimes working loose is probably a little harder because you have to be very specific on your strokes. Almost like I'm not comparing myself at all to John Singer Sargent, but his painterly style, although it looks so effortless, was quite thought out. It would be said that he would spend, 10 minutes just looking at a color, but then when he got it, it was the exact color he needed. So he did things through, but the delivery looked spontaneous. So in order to truncate reality, sometimes it does take, not to say that it's any more, um, I don't know, more interesting or more elaborate or more artistic, aesthetic, but to work fast or to work in that painterly way, you do have to slow down. It's not just because, oh well, they know how to paint really well, like Sargents and Soroyas. That's why they can slap it down. Believe me, they thought things through. So it takes just as much time to truncate form than it is to render form. So, um, and again, it's aesthetic. It's whatever your preference might be. All right, so we're massing in some of the shirt. I mean, drying his shirt. So we're starting to look a little bit more, coming to life a little bit more. The hair, seeing that there's a lot there's a lot of hair, and then there's a lot of curls and waves and things we want to try to execute here. And still going back, you'll see me going back and back around the shadows. I'm really trying to get those to be nice and rich and dark. Um, so again, because we can build up a little bit, it's quite easy to do that. I'm watching out for the planes of the nose. I want that highlight to rest right on the tip, since his head is actually, well, whoever took the picture was slightly underneath, so it's almost like a slight worm's eye view looking up. So, which gives it its majesty, I think. That's why I was very interested in this picture. I just like the way it was lit. I like his look. He looks very regal. And no, I didn't paint the iguana, um, but I liked, maybe on another video we'll just paint lizards. But on this one, I just really liked his look. There was just something about it. All right, so he's got some, a little bit more accent marks coming through. Um, Trying to get that to really be emphasized as much as possible. This is where you just have to go around all ends, all sides, and just keep looking for the dark shapes, looking for the dark, um, looking for all the darks, right? And then once you find them, once you find those accents, then you can go back to the averages. That's what I've always felt you could do. Around the eyes, more accents too as we go. So I want to make sure that the accents around the nose, we're getting accents in the eyes, around the nostrils. So he's really starting to turn around. Now what you do is, if you want to round a form out, just put the color down and then just right to an edge with just water. You can just touch that mark that you made and you can round out areas. I've done that in the cheeks and some places in the nose and the nostrils. Okay, it's pretty standard. Most people who do paint in watercolor have, know that, but if you don't, that's how you get roundness. Or at least, if you don't want to have brush strokes that defined, you can always merge them by just adding a little water to fuse them together. The edges, I should say. All right, so we're seeing a little bit more of his hair color come in. And here I'm just putting water down because I am going to go back and hit that backdrop with just a little bit more. I really want that dark. I want him to just keep jumping out. Probably should have done this in the beginning, but sometimes you well, it's one of those things where you kind of feel like, it might look too dark in the beginning, so you might shy away. So you can put the second wash down. In the technique that I used, I didn't want to lose my edge, or at least some of the edges. So I went back in, and now I'm just fusing in the background and putting some of the background color into his beard, right? I want to pick that blue color up. I didn't paint the window, as you can see, or the headrest. I didn't want him to look like he was in a car. So now, like that technique I was just mentioning, a little water, that's how you're going to kind of turn an edge a little bit, okay? So that's really what you should do. Is if you want to do a lot of portraits, practice on like simple shapes like an egg or something, and put the wash down and just take water, clear water, and just try to get that egg to be as round as possible. Sometimes you might need more than one pass. Sometimes, if you're lucky, you can get it in one shot. It's up, that's a matter of practicing. Um, there is a video, and I think it was the basics on my channel. You can check it out, and where we just make little, basically little spheres, and you can see how they're done, and edges too. I believe. I think there's something in there about edges, like to get them softer, to get them. Well, hard edges are pretty easy to do out of the box, but soft edges in watercolor are usually, challenging. You got to practice them a bit more. Now, I'm seeing that he's got some, this skin tone underneath the beard always. Just think the hair is actually creating a shadow shape, so you want to indicate that redness. It gives the painting a little more life, and that's what you want to look for. Now I'm going back with a little bit of the opaque white, but I'm tinting it with some color. I wanted some little just flecks of brighter light here and there. You can scratch it out if you want to. I always find that this is a lot easier because you can really pinpoint where you want the color. Don't even think about masking the hair, those flyaway hairs. It'd be just too distracting. I just find that this is probably the best way to go. Um, I know there are people who feel that you should always never use opaque paint. I don't know. Sometimes in a pinch it works. Um, Again, going back to Sargent, I kind of follow his lead. He used everything. Um, Wax candles. He put opaque paint in most of his watercolors just to achieve the effect of light that he wanted. So, um, and you can't dispute how beautiful those watercolors were. All right, so more around the lips. She's starting to kind of come together a little bit more. Um, we're almost at the end, so that's pretty much as loose as I'm going to get. You can see like over that strong drawing that we had originally. You can still see it's kept everything together, which is good. Um, that's really what a good drawing is for. Then it's really just following the values, uh, moving ahead. So I'm trying to get a little bit more color in his hair, um, some more accents, some shadowing here. Um, yeah. So there you go. He's pretty much done here. Um, as you can see, I'm going to be tweaking a lot, going back, and you should with a portrait, because sometimes you just don't get everything where you want it to be. So keep looking, watching, and I think we're done. And there's the final portrait. Thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned for more. Bye now.